Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast blood.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GRINDcast. Get ready. It's a new day, and we have a very special, extra special guest today. And my friend and mentor and former CEO of American Income Life. And man, I can't even believe you're here right now, Roger. Thank you for coming to visit us, and thank you for being here.
Love it, man.
Yeah,
I
thought Natalie was made a mistake. You know, Roger's in town. We just we're coming up off our fundraiser for Steel City Impact, and you've always been supportive that way. I remember with Inspiring Minds, you guys all flew in, my first one that I had in the middle of nowhere, you know, in Youngstown. Yeah. But we had this wine tasting event, fundraising for the kids, and Natalie, you know, tells me Jenny contacted her, Roger's assistant, longtime assistant, who's still an assistant to our new CEO, Steve Greer, and she said she thought Roger was coming. And I said, Natalie, I don't think he's coming to this right now. I think he's talking about when his book comes out, because, you know, we'll be talking about your book coming out and all that. I said, I think he's talking about in April or something when his book's starting to drop. He ain't gonna come to this thing. And, you know, I got so busy, you know, with everything. Now, like, no, I think he's coming to this. And, you know, when you're planning something like that, it's just like a lot of hustle and bustle. And it just slipped my mind for a minute, you know, that it was actually happening. And like when I saw you yesterday is when it was like, all right, I didn't believe you were coming till I saw it in person, you know, and man, I'm just really grateful that we had the opportunity to see you and some of my people meet you. You know, you're literally a legend, you know, for American Income. You spent over 40 years of your life, you know, with this company, and looking forward to diving in a little bit with you, and almost 20 years, 17, 18 years or so, at the corporate level with the company as president or CEO. And so we're just really, really excited to have you, Roger. And,
thank you, Simon. And listen, thank you. Thank you for being you, you know, and I mean this sincerely, that what you do and the way you give back to your community is really one of the core philosophies of American Income. And it's one of the philosophies that Mr. Rappaport, you know, tried to pass down to us. And, of course, you know, I tried to continue. Some people talk it, and some do it. And the reality of it is very few really do it at the level that you do. So I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate what you do. And it was really a pleasure, and it was inspiring for me to come and see what you're putting together. Really inspiring to me. You know, I remember when Marcus Smith, you know, who called my resume and was my first mentor here, you know, when we first started getting going, I remember before I met you, he's like, man, you're going to love our CEO. You're going to love Roger. He's your type of guy. You know, I didn't really know what that meant, you know, and until I started to get to know you and watch you and see the shoes that you wore. You know, the shoes just always had really, really sharp shoes, and a lot of swagger, you know, just the best, the glasses, the Chrome Hearts glasses, but this huge heart. And then I see the background of you, of going from GED to CEO, which is what the book is going to be, you know, coming about. Can you give us just a brief, you know, synopsis? 'Cause I want to pick your brain, but I think just for people to understand, you know, the journey that you've had, like, what did you ever see it, you know, that your life would turn out that way? And maybe give them a brief, like, what was your upbringing like, and all the way from where you started to where you're at right now? No, absolutely not. You know, I you know, I can't believe that I was still alive after 19, you know, so there were so many things that happened early on, and you know, briefly, you know, my mom was a single mom trying to take care of the kids and everything, and you know, was trying to work, and therefore, you know, there wasn't really, you know, anybody watching over me a lot, which allowed me the freedom to, unfortunately, get in as much trouble as it is. And it's kind of crazy because up until the time that I was like 13 and a half, I was a really good kid. I mean, I was in the musical, the junior high musical carousel. I was on the chess club. I was in the woodworking club. I was like, I didn't get A's and B's, but I didn't get D's and F's. I was like a normal kid. And then that summer, when I was 13 and a half, it's like a switch flipped. It also coincided with the hippie movement that was just starting. And to me, all of a sudden was, wow, these are my people. These are the people that could accept me and accept my values and so on. And, unfortunately, the peace and the love lasted for a year and a half. And then from there, it went into drugs. And from there into, very hardcore drugs and so on. So, I didn't do well in school afterwards. I got kicked out of school my first month that I was in high school because I wouldn't wear socks with my sandals or something that they wanted me to do, and then it was alternative school, and none of it worked. And then, for the next 3 or 4 years of my life, I was basically on the streets and, just trying to survive, and I was fortunate. My stepfather had started working for American Income about 6 months before I started. And he said, Roger, I think you should try this. And I'm going, first of all, I didn't want to disappoint him. I didn't want to be an embarrassment to him. And I was, there wasn't the chances of me being successful in my own mind was very negative. But I gave it a shot. And you know what? It changed my life. And
that was at what age?
That was at 21.
21 years old, you started with the company.
Yeah. And, it's interesting. I look back, and there isn't any part of my career that came naturally. You know how they say, well, you're a naturally born salesperson, you're a naturally born this, you're a naturally born leader. I wasn't naturally born at all to anything. All of it was just learned behavior. And, and then I went through, we'll get into it more.
Constant not giving up and not,
perseverance.
just keep. What would you?
It's like who's standing last, And the person standing last is the person that persevered, all the way through.
In your experience in our
God's
business
blessing.
and just business in general, how much of that do you think plays a role in people's success of like that, just the whole perseverance thing of like who's standing last?
I would put that as the number one thing. You're going to have obstacles. You're going to have adversities. Yeah, it's Maxwell's failing forward. It's okay. I failed in this or this didn't work out. Great. What did I learn from it? Because the odds are the same circumstance happens again, but now how do I respond to that circumstance?
Right.
And each time you get better and better and better and better. So, it's a long journey. It's a long grind. People see you and they go, wow, man, I want that. And they think they're going to have it, 3-4 years later. And no, man, it's a grind. It takes a while to build it up. And then it takes even more effort to keep it up. Right?
Right.
So,
so many, I feel like, fall off and lose their way and give up on themselves in the middle of that process because it just is part of what it requires in order to go
Right.
to. It's not an overnight. It's not an overnight thing.
And their picture isn't clear enough.
The vision.
Their vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. If their vision isn't clear enough and it's not strong enough, then they're going to have all
Easy
these
to
other
quit.
things taken. Yeah.
Hearing your story, when people read the book and, I remember you telling your story, just the whole story of American Income, your journey. It's like, it sounds like a 12-round, boxing match, where it's like, man, you're woozy, you got hit and you stumbled and you got back up, standing 8 count, and at the end of it, your hands raised and you're victorious. It was like a battle.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I played the Rocky theme a lot when I was.
Really?
I did.
I love it.
We played it in my car.
What would you give to the people in business or in our business that are like at a point where they feel they're stuck, or they feel there's no hope? Because you have some of those moments of feeling like, man, it's always going to be this way, or I'm stuck, and you start to doubt yourself a little bit. What would you say to those people? What advice would you give?
Listen, I think we're going to probably talk a little bit about mentors in a bit, but one of the things that Mark McAndrew taught me was that nothing's as good as it seems, and nothing's as bad as it seems. So your highs aren't really as high, or shouldn't be, and your lows aren't as low. This too shall pass, and I think that if you keep that vision of where you want to be very, very clear, and it's interesting because for a large part of my life, I talked the talk of success, but the real picture of what I saw was, somebody drug addicted, alone. It was a really, really negative picture, but I kept on talking that picture. So it's not the picture that you say to everybody else. It's that picture way, way down deep inside. And that is the picture that you have to change if you want to find success. And so if that picture's strong, then, then whatever stutter steps that you have, whatever failures that you're going to have, listen, we've all said it 100 times. If it was easy, everybody would have it, right?
Right.
It's not easy.
Right.
This is hard. Start
Right.
with that premise. Know that you're going to have failures along the way, and that those failures will lead you to more successes.
Amen.
Yeah.
What struggles would you say that you remember that stand out to you as a CEO?
Oh my gosh. Well, I tend to have blocked the struggles and just think of the triumphs, but I will say that starting off was really, really hard. I mean, it was
Transition.
Yeah, well, first of all, there was a few transitions. Number one, I was used to running my own shop, right? And all of a sudden, now I was in a corporate world. It was a corporate world that I didn't really understand, and at times, especially when I would get into like the financial report, the financial meetings, literally, I felt like a kid in school doesn't know how to read. And he's trying to bluff his way through.
Yeah.
There were many times that was the way I felt. I remember Debbie Gamble talking to me in the very beginning, and she we had to do things, and she was going, okay, well, what do you want to do with this, and what do you want to do with that? And I said, Debbie, I don't have a clue. So listen, you just keep doing what we've been doing till I can figure this out. And there's an important note there, and that is that oftentimes you hear people say, well, listen, I'm just not ready yet. And the reality of it is that for anything that is a challenge, for anything that is going to take you out of your comfort zone, you're not going to be ready.
Never ready.
You get ready in the position. And that's what happened with me. But it was not easy. It was a struggle. I remember thinking, God, if I had any stock in Torchmark, which was what it was called at that time, I would have sold it. Because I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know why anybody's going to follow me at this point.
What would you say carried you then in that moment before you, because I saw you really comfortable,
Yeah. You know what? I think that I started to have a series of successes. So things that I thought should work did work. And they didn't work all the time. But they worked the majority of the time. And I think those, things. The reality of it is that, listen, I know that there's no self-made man that, listen, I can only look back at my life, look back at this career and say, thank you, God. Thank you for, watching over me. Thank you for blessing me. And I'll try to bless other people.
Yep. Speaking of that, not self-made, one of your mentors was the founder of our company, Bernard Rappaport. What things stick out to you that you grabbed that helped you in the company, or maybe even today, that you learned from B?
Yeah. So I was really, really fortunate, Simon, because I happened to have 3 mentors that really, really changed my life. Bernard taught me about the social injustices of the world. I was fortunate because my mom had also, taught me, but Mr. Rappaport really solidified about what was happening, and that you're only as good as the community that you're in, and if that community's suffering, then then everything's suffering, and so it's your responsibility to put back into that. I think that he taught me about patience. Gosh, I mean, we were wild. There's no other way to say it. We were a very young SGA body, and it was nuts, and it was crazy, and it was wild. And he was extremely, extremely patient with us. And I think he also just taught me about forgiveness in business, which is important with the people. I do want to say that my stepfather, was a great mentor as far as training, and he was the original charter member of the President's Club, and so
Wow.
He taught me how to close. He taught me how to create rapport in the home. All of that was big, and then Mark McAndrew, who really taught me about data, and up until that point we only knew one way:
Emotion. Yep.
Motivate with emotion, and if it's negative, use emotion, scream, And he taught me about data and using data, in for the negative parts of the business. He taught me to respond and not react. To actually look at what the issue is and stop and think, and then respond to that issue versus emotionally reacting to that issue.
Yep.
And nothing's as good as it seems, and nothing's as bad as it seems. So, I think that you really, really have to seek out the mentors in your life, and because I don't think you can mentor other people unless you seek that out.
What was it like to be able to meet and spend time with Bill Clinton?
And
Jimmy Hoffa, some of those guys that you were.
No, it was. Oftentimes I've looked back at my life and said, "Wow, I can't believe that I was, met these people, with these people." One of the greatest experiences in my life is when I went to Israel with Jimmy Hoffa, his sister, his sons, and it was. Teamsters had always been involved in Israel, and the father Hoffa had an orphanage in Israel, and so when I went with Jim, they recreated the opening of the orphanage and stuff, and it was an emotional experience. I remember talking to the grandsons, who were grown at that time, and I told them, I said, listen, I was in New York City and I saw on a billboard it says, do you know where Jimmy Hoffa is or something? And I was thinking, as a grandson, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with, all the crap that goes on, and how did you deal with it? Because they were in school at that time. And he said, I dealt with it with my fists in the beginning, and then I learned how to do it with words. So, you really get to know these people personally, and how much they are committed to doing right, and doing right by working people. All the crap that went on with President Clinton and all that stuff didn't take away from his deep beliefs of social injustice and trying to do that. Same thing when I met President Obama, and I met him when he was a senator, running on the second term and getting ready to run for president, and they're deep, sincere passions about working people and communities and so on. That was a real pleasurable part of my career.
The journey. So, Roger, what would you say are, if any at all, any regrets you have? You could look back on your career with, American Income, 40 plus years. Any regrets?
Yeah, I really don't have any regrets as far as the journey, because I think like each mistake, each thing I kind of did wrong kind of led me to the next thing that I could do right. So I don't have that. My only regret was I wish I had stuck around for the $250 million.
Okay.
I kind of like left right before that, and that would probably be
just crossing that
would kind of like be the
we
only
talked
regret.
about it for so long.
But you guys went ahead and took care of business, so appreciate it. Believe me.
What would you say you're most proud of in your personal life?
I would think that my kids, I think that I have a really good relationship with all my kids, and
love it.
Yeah, it's really special for me.
How would you describe in a nutshell, and I know we covered some of it, but if you had to just boil it down and explain to somebody what it takes to be successful in business, what would you say to them?
I think that I would ask that question, but more of what it takes what it takes to be a successful leader, which would then lend itself to the business. And I think that in that case, I think that you have to be visionary. I think it's so important that you have to see further than everybody else that you're associated with. And if you can believe in what you're seeing, that vision, if you set up the systems for the implementation of that vision and the inspection systems that it takes to make sure that the systems are doing exactly what you're doing, and you're able to gain the trust so that you can have the influence, then you have all the ingredients that are set up to be successful.
What sacrifices do you think need to be made to launch, to get off the ground, to get a business off the ground, to get your in your first few years, or what sacrifices? Because there's no real success without making some form of sacrifice.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that if you look at it and say, okay, I'm not above any position in this business. It's like you're the cook, the busboy, the waiter. Well, it's the same thing. If you're becoming an SGA, well, you better not be above, well, I got to go out in the field, or I got to do this, or I have to do that. You can't draw any lines in the sand. You got to be willing to
do the dirty work.
And not just a little bit of dirty work. You got to be willing to do a lot of dirty work.
Yeah. And anything that you've learned, over the years that you could look back and say, man, I wish I knew then 30 years ago, what I know now, as it applies to more business related things.
Well, I don't know. I do think that it's really, really important to have a balance in your life. We talked a little bit about that
in the car,
and I think that it's really important. I think that if you can balance your family and balance your business and balance your spirituality and balance your physical and keep that all in balance, that leads for success and happiness. And
mind, body, spirit, family.
Yeah. You can be successful, but that doesn't mean that you're necessarily happy. And
No
I
doubt.
think that the more balance you can find on it and focusing on having that balance, I think the more happiness that you'll find with your success.
How do you do that? Like, how would somebody apply that of like, man, I'm trying to grow something. There's a certain amount of effort,
Right.
that's required. There's a certain
Right.
amount of commitment, time
Correct.
necessary. How do I accomplish that?
So, okay. So I think that being present becomes very important. So if I'm in my business mode, then I am going to be present in my business mode. If I am in my family time, I'm going to be present in my family time. This is my time with you, with my kids, with my wife, and I'm present. If I'm working out, I'm not taking calls when I'm working out. This is my time physically for me. If I'm at church, I'm not focusing on anything else except my spirituality. So I think it's being present in the moment that allows that.
Love it.
Yeah.
I really love that. Takes discipline
Yeah.
to zone in for that moment
For
and not
sure.
get distracted either way.
For sure.
Having success, having a title, having influence, having, tons of people that you're responsible for, it comes with critics. Oftentimes you come with some critics and people that don't like you.
Really?
Sometimes.
How disappointing.
Very rarely, but once in a while. How have you been able to handle when you did have, critics or people that, hated you or hated on you, or how did you learn to handle that?
Okay. So, first I had to differentiate whether they just didn't understand where I was trying to go, or if they were just going to hate on me no matter what, right? So I felt that it was part of my responsibility to make sure that I spent the time so that they understood what my vision was, why I had the vision, why it was important for this change. Then if they kept on and they just wanted to hate, then I just had to have the attitude like, well, okay, really, who gives a, because I can't get off my mission because of the chatter. And there's always going to be the chatter. If you're good, somebody's running at you. And a lot of times those people aren't playing fair. So so as long as you're aware of it and you know it, then it's just like chatter in the background. You just,
How have you learned, or how would you suggest for people to learn? Every time I think I have this mastered, my emotions take over once in a blue moon, and I realize that I don't have it mastered, but I've come so far.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the opportunity to mentor other people, on their journey. And I see, the first thing is, like you said, is it, do they just not understand? Or is the first thing, let me look at myself and ask myself, maybe, is there something I can learn? Are they right? Is there part of it that, that's not
Sure.
necessarily hating on me, but they're right. But once you sort through that, and it's really, there's not really anything that you could find, or, you could learn something from everything. But when you could really identify, it's just, people that have ill will for you, or are jealous of you or hate on you. I mentor people, as they go through this for the first time, as I did. How did you learn to do that? Like, how do you, like, it's easy to say, well, I've just learned to chatter to, block it out, and maybe now, but, people are just learning this, how do you handle that?
Listen, I believe in that philosophy of, either get on the bus or get off the bus. I just, you're with me or you're against me. I don't know another way to put it. So I will put out the effort to try to have you with me, because I want you with me. But if you're not going to be with me, then you are now a cancer. And I'm not going to let you spread your disease to the rest of the organization. So, there was quite a few people that that retired, or I might have asked to or suggested. listen, I turned over 50% of the SJ body in the first year that I was running the company. So, either come with me or don't.
Yep.
And that's kind of the way that I dealt with it.
Did
that answer your question?
I think it did. I think it did. Perfect balance of it, actually. Did you ever, see, or could you ever imagine yourself, when you were at rock bottom, being the CEO and, retiring with, the life that you were able to retire with?
Never could see it. Never. No, I mean, no, I didn't. For many, many years of my life, it was a very destructive picture. So for sure I couldn't see it then. And then, I think that what happens is as you get more and more successes, then at least for me, it's like, oh, wow, I can do this. Oh, wait a second. I can really lead this. I can achieve this goal. I can affect this many people. I can inspire this many people. I can teach people about giving back. All these things that I could actually do.
That stands out to me, too. I think when you talk about balance, one of the balances that I saw you lead with that I admire is your balance to be able to retire people. If you need to encourage them to retire, but also have such a heart, for people to forgive people and to be able to work with people, that were struggling or had in a situation. Like you had that perfect balance of, man, he has such a huge heart and a soft heart, but he's not soft. He'll cut you in a minute. It's like, man, what a balance. And then your heart for always giving, to people, man. There's like, man, these moments, we were joking in the car. I was saying, man, sometimes I can't remember what I did last week, or what I said last week, but there's like very significant things that I can remember of people and things that happened in my life. Like one of the moments I remember at convention, I think your father was there, your stepfather was there, Bernard was there. And I was real young in the business, couple years in, and I loved your chain. You had that dagger, and I still have it. I should have brought it today. The Chrome Hearts dagger chain, which is why Marcus saw. It was one of those things. It's like, man, what a balance. He's like, he's such a business person, but he got a little thug in him. And I love that chain, and I complimented you, and I came downstairs. We were outside, and you walked up to me and gave me the chain. Gave me that chain, and I've had that chain for 14 years, since you gave me that chain. And the first time that I kicked off 8 years ago, my first fundraiser, when I ever thought about doing a youth program and stuff, to watch Mark McAndrew, former CEO of Torchmark, and you and Jim and so many people get on a plane, and teammates and players, around me, coaches, get on a plane, and there's no real like flights that are going straight to Youngstown. You got to it's a hustle, to get to Youngstown, and that you would come out there and do that. And then same with, just you showing up at something like this, recently, your heart for giving, and leading by example has inspired me a ton.
Thank you.
I've given the chain off of my neck to people to hope to give the feeling to them that you gave, to me. There's people in this office walking around with my chain, Perm, you've seen me, give my chain to people, and that started, started with you.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate that. And I think people are really going to benefit from learning your journey. And I'm really excited about the book that's getting ready to come out. Your book that's coming out is called From GED to CEO.
Most unlikely leader, an unbelievable journey from GED to CEO. Yeah, I'm excited.
A lot of people are going to find inspiration from this. A lot of parents are going to want their children to read this. There's a lot of people that are going to find hope in that journey, in that never quit, attitude.
I hope so. It's
super excited for you.
My purpose in hoping that I could inspire people and.
When's the book come out?
So like every other industry. Today there are distribution problems.
Got you.
But
maybe by summer.
No. It's May 14th, I believe, is a published date.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully.
So we
there
got
won't be a paper shortage.
we got a hard date.
We
Okay.
got a hard date on that, and I'd love to come out and as we get closer to that, visit with your agency. And,
Can't wait.
Sit and talk to the agents, and I love you, man. I think if I had to take a prototype of a person and say, this is what at SJ, this is what a business leader in a community should look like, man, that it would be your picture. It'd be you. It is. You're a remarkable human being.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Means a lot coming from you. How would somebody go about following you or following your journey or any of that? I know you're super young at heart and always had that swag, but I know you're new to the social media.
Are telling me that.
You're on social media right now.
I am on social media, and
is it just Roger Smith?
Peter would have to tell me what that is.
Peter's with us. So, Peter, how would they get a hold of
Roger Smith, CEO, on Instagram and on TikTok?
Roger Smith, CEO, on Instagram, and we got him on TikTok?
Yep.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. Okay.
And then the most unlikely leader is the books pages.
The most unlikely leader is the book.
Yeah, and it's on Amazon as the most unlikely leader as well.
It's on Amazon?
Right now.
Okay. They could pre-order it right now?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Well, Raj, I just want to say thank you for taking time out and getting on a plane and coming to support, and thanks for joining us on an episode of the GRINDcast.
Yeah,
we appreciate having you.
Yeah, love it.
So if this helped anybody, please share it so we can continue to inspire people. Stay tuned on Roger Smith's book, soon to come out. And thanks for joining us on another episode of the GRINDcast. Get ready, it's a new day. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of the GRINDcast. If you're looking for extra help, extra mentorship, or you know somebody that does, just this past year, my partner Marcus Smith and I, who was the guy that started me into business, called my resume and was one of my first mentors, my partner Marcus and I opened up Cash Money Mentoring, something that would provide an affordable way, for people at all different walks of life, different businesses, different stages of their life and career, for us to be able to in-person live mentor folks and help them. I got so many messages on Instagram and social media, so many people asking for time, and I hated that I had to say no, that we found a way to say yes. And so every month we're spending a few hours with people. So head over to cashmoneymentoring.com. And thank you, as always. Thank you for the time that you've invested with us. And let's get it.